We'd like to welcome you back to part 2 of our current event and weekly Bible study for August 18th, 2013. This is the part 2, and we're continuing with the interview with Deborah Tavares. Joyce Riley's interviewing her. This was on August 8th of 2013 this year. Again, this is the interview that I had heard in part just, quote, by chance, and for a very, like a 15-minute time frame, 15, 20 minutes, and I mean, it was really getting choppy, and I could barely hear it, but it was so good that I was keeping it on the station, even though I could barely hear it as I was going through the mountains and the woods there in the Tennessee area. And then when I got back, I had at least two other listeners send me this interview on top of the requests I had before to cover her video on the Nassau documents. So it was a lot of different confirmation I was getting here. The Bible says out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses a thing is established, and really, really ties in with essentially all the teachings I've ever done regarding these types of subjects. Just more massive, nefarious, malevolent, evil confirmation on the satanic agenda afoot as we are going in from the old world order into the new world order, from the age of Pisces, as the New Agers would say, into the age of Aquarius. And this is all part of that transitioning period. And it's literally like seeing the Bible come alive to me, because the Bible predicted things were going to be in upheaval, and wars and rumors of wars and plagues and pestilences and deception would be, the norm, essentially. Jesus Christ said, "Be ye not deceived," regarding the end times, and that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect, and false prophets, false apostles. We're going to see a lot of signs and lying wonders and miracles. That's going to be the very way by which the Antichrist and the false prophet deceive the whole world. That's going to be the chief way. That's done. So that's another whole aspect to this that really isn't covered today, but this is part of the process. This is part of the whole process to bring us to that point. So I'm going to go ahead and let's roll with this interview.
Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. It's all about the reality of what exists and not what they want us to think exists. Thank you for supporting the Power Mall. The way you support us is by purchasing the items that we have for you. And we go out and search for the absolute very best items to offer to you on the Power Hour. And the way that you can get those in a catalog is by calling us at 877 817-9829, 877-817-9829, or go to thepowermall.com. I want to also say that we have the complete radio shows from the Power Hour available for MP3 format or to play in your DVD player. They're available on one CD, and you can get those by calling the Power Hour. They're $25 for a month of radio shows. And you can just plug it in and listen as you drive to work or whatever. It's available 1 month of radio shows. Shows like with Deborah Tavares today.
Okay, so if you do any of this, just remember it's important to glean. Okay? There's very few ministries I'll put any kind of wholesale endorsement on anymore. I was actually within radio range of this station, I think as we were leaving the Gatlinburg area. Yeah. And I listened, and the next day we were going out of there. She was having people on, literally getting their opinion on what they thought, like Revelation, like the book of Revelation and the coming, I forget exactly what it was, but it was literally people with their own little spin cult theology calling in saying, well, I think it means this. And every one of them, without exception, every one of these callers was so off the wall and so unbelievably unbiblical in their interpretation of Revelation. I was like, you turn around and you put out this amazing show with Deborah Tavares, and then the next day you go into, and I'm not saying she was doing it maliciously, she just doesn't know her Bible really well, and giving all of these people a platform to spew heresy. And I mean really, really rank, bad, unbiblical interpretations of the book of Revelation. I mean, it was so bad, I listened to about, 10 minutes of it, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I had to turn it off. It was that bad. So, glean, and that's the case with every ministry I would ever recommend, is just glean. And if you see, some people say, you eat the chicken and spit out the bones or whatever, those types of analogies. So anyway, that I just want to kind of throw that in there.
You're going to want to hear again, I can guarantee you. We also have the Botanical Sea Serum. Now, we go out and find, like I said, the best that we can find for you, and this is something that I've been using twice a day, and I absolutely love it. It's a vitamin C serum for the face, and it contains essential oils. It is paraben-free, petroleum-free, alcohol-free. It contains only the good stuff in it, and it's only $11.99 for an 8-gram bottle. Use a very small amount of it. $11.99 for an 8-gram bottle. Also, we have on special the curcumin that everyone needs to research for themselves. Pets, good for you.
Okay, so I'm trying to get through this part.
Anti-inflammatory that there is, bar none, of even prescription drugs.
Curcumin is very good, and turmeric is very, very good.
So please take advantage of getting your curcumin, your coconut items at the Power Mall, 877-817-9829, or go to thepowermall.com. We're talking to Deborah Tavares today, stopthecrime.net. It is a website that is full of documentation, and that is what I love. You all know I want to see the documents. Well, this is where you see the documents. And she is talking about silent weapons for Quiet Wars document. We're going to get into some others. Now, is there anything else you want to talk about on, because I know this is extremely important, that they want to get everybody converted over to Energy Star appliances, but there is no Energy Star appliance stove for gas, for propane and gas.
That's
correct?
Right. And so what everyone needs to research for themselves is to go to your planning department. Again, go to stopthecrime.net and read the article that we have posted about this and look at the excerpts that we've taken out of these plans. Again, these plans are paid for in Southern California by the utility company under the auspices of the Public Utility Commission. Again, this is all part of the global takeover. This is all tied together. I want to point out something else very, very critical, Joyce, regarding frequencies. On our website, we have a warning packet to all police, fire, and first responders. It's about pulsed microwave radiation and the effects to the brain. We're noticing increased anger. We're noticing a lot of increased brutality with the police departments and with people on the streets. And what people must understand is that these frequencies have an enormous impact on our moods and how we behave. And so in order to protect one another, we've got to get this information out.
Now, if you're on my email list, particularly the newsletter email list, I've put out, I don't know how many links lately of police brutality. I mean, we're talking insane police brutality. Sometimes women being raped and then being beaten. And I watched a video the other day. I couldn't even believe it. I mean, these two cops were literally on top of this lady. It was being recorded in a room, just beating her face in. And then it showed her after. She looked like a monster. Her face instantly blew up like a balloon. And I couldn't believe it. And there was people in there watching this. There was two people in there. And the lady I don't know, maybe she smarted off. And they just started beating her. And I'm like, the lady's restrained. And she wasn't spitting or whatever or trying to. It's just unbelievable. And then, as I've documented in recent days, the unbelievable increase of black on white crime. Now, I'm not saying, whites are perfect, but I'm telling you, there's thousands and thousands of examples of this on the streets, and they're not being reported. The only thing you're going to see is Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, and that type of thing. Literally in that same county, within that same month, there was a white pregnant lady, I just put this out in the last newsletter, that was beaten by a mob of, I think 6 or 12 black people that beat her while she was pregnant. They knew she was pregnant, and they told her they didn't care she was pregnant as they were beating her. A local news report is the only place you're going to find it. You're not going to find that anywhere else. And it was in the same county that the George Zimmerman thing happened. And whereas, he actually got attacked, she didn't attack them. They were in an argument, but they were literally 6 or 12 black people on one white woman who was pregnant 6 months showing. No press about that whatsoever. So that's another agenda that they've got, and it's really to start a race war, I believe. And I believe a lot of these frequencies they're using are to incite that very thing. Rage in us. And this is why it's very important, I believe, to put on the full armor of God every day. And to pray for God's protection. And to pray His angels when they camp around about you and your family and your house and your property. And to plead the blood of Jesus Christ over yourself and your family. And your house, wherever you go. I believe that the Lord can protect us from these things. There's also other practical things probably out there that can be done. I think keeping your nutritional status high, keeping yourself detox, staying away from, keeping your indoor air and your car air, try to keep that purified to kind of offset a lot of the chemtrails, drinking purified water, trying to eat as much organic as you can, making sure that you're preparing for what's coming. I mean, however the Lord leads you. I understand we're not in all the same boat and we all can't do the same thing, and God's, the God of the universe, He can protect us no matter what's happening. But these are some other things to think about as well.
They have been locating cell phone towers and antennas on police departments and on fire departments because the telecom industry will pay them quite a bit of money per month to have these sightings of these cell phone towers. At this point, I want to tell everyone, go to antennasearch.com. You will be able to put in your address, and there's a 4-mile radius that will show up with the locations of the cell phone towers and the antennas. These are weaponized frequencies. In many of the documents, one of which we have on our website, the NASA War document, I urge everyone to go to that. On page 50, it talks about the low pulse frequencies of microwaves as referred to in the U.S. Army document. We have that U.S. Fort Meade Army document posted on stopthecrime.net. They say that it absolutely will change our performances. It will cause seizures. The frequencies will have gross alteration to brain function and lethality. They tell us this. All these military documents tell us that this is weaponized. Again, this is part of the silent weapon system so that we don't understand what is happening. And that's why so many people are experiencing so many sicknesses. We're not sleeping well through the night. We're having earlier onset dementias, massive increases in autism, diabetes, cancer, leukemia. People are having ear pinging in the ears. They're having heart palpitations. Go to smartmetersmurder.com. Smartmetersmurder.com. You can get to that from Stop the Crime and print off the symptoms list. But I want to urge everyone also to go to the NASA War Plan. It is unbelievable. You'll understand what we are facing. This is a plan that discusses robots, cyborgs, and eliminating humans. It is a massive plan that is talking about the use of technologies. This was a PowerPoint presented in 2001, in fact, July of 2001, by Dennis Bushnell, the chief NASA scientist at the NASA Langley Research Center. We found this on the NASA website. The agencies involved with this plan is the U.S. Air Force. Now remember, they're also involved in the silent weapons planning as well. DARPA, the CIA, the FBI, Southern Command.
I mean, talk about rapid fire here. I can't even keep up with what she's going over here. This is the third time I kind of heard it partly. Listened to it again yesterday. Today, I can't even keep up with all this stuff. Okay, she said some things there. She's a mouthful. She's very good at what she does. She mentioned antennasearch.com. I gave you the link in the PDF for August 18th, 2013 on contendingfortruth.com. What it is, your free online source for detailed information on over 1.9 million towers and antennas in the U.S., includes Google Maps, ownership details, contact information, and more. pinpoint existing towers, future towers, and even small hidden antennas to determine cell phone coverage. Well, it basically gives you an idea where they are in relation to you. The closer you are to these towers, the more radiation you're getting hit with. If you're close to the antenna towers, plus you got the smart meters, plus they're doing HARP, plus they might be using scalar weapon and Gwen towers. I mean, it's just we're being absolutely totally bombarded, and some people are much more sensitive than others to this, and these are causing massive, massive problems. So anyway, I give you the link to that, and then she mentioned smartmetersmurder.com, which is a kind of a nice, subtle, low-key name, smartmetersmurder.com. Anyway, I'm on that site now, and it's basically another site on refusing smart meters, and it's tied in with her site, stopthecrime.net. Boy, she's got a lot of stuff she's tied into. And then I guess they've got these war documents she just mentioned. Alarming war document revealed, stopthecrime.net, and I give you the link to that as well. You can click on that. If you're new to this type of information, this would probably be one of the greatest ways you could get up to speed on this about as quick as you could, because it's really going to give you a huge knowledge base very, very, very quickly on what is really going on here. And particularly, there's a lot on these smart meters. So I'll go ahead and roll the audio again here. And I gave you the link to the smartmetermurder.com I just added that into the PDF. I'm actually adding links as we go here, so it's going to be like one-stop shopping. If you go to the PDF that I'm going to provide, you'll have it all in one spot. And then if you want to bookmark those links, you can do that as well.
And et cetera. You need to understand the massiveness of this corporate agency, like a monster that has wrapped its tentacles in every aspect of our existence. And understand that back then they told us in 2001 in this NASA plan that everything they were talking about, all the technologies, everything was available to them then. And they talked about the use of a micron-sized dust. They said that it was a dust which would be distributed as an aerosol and inhaled into our lungs. They said that the dust mechanically bores into our lung tissue and executes various pathological missions, that this is a new class of weaponry and they consider it legal. It is legal. They also talk about the increased use of beam weapons becoming...
Did you get that? They can literally put the nano robots, which is what she's describing there. Now, we've talked about injectable nanorobots that literally, they've got that into the form where Hitachi's had it for a long, long time, where it's literally dust particle size. Who knows what they're putting in the vaccines, or who knows what else as far as injectable things go. It doesn't just have to be the vaccines if you think about it. Yeah, we've talked about injectable microchips. But this is injectable nanorobot dust. Okay, now we're talking about it in an aerosolized form, in a chemtrail plane, with all the other toxic brew of garbage they're putting in the chemtrails to kill us off, and to literally terraform the planet, to make it more hospitable for the coming Nephilim, or whatever that's coming, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. Well, I'm serious. I think this is why we've got a lot of this unbelievable terraforming of the planet going on, to not only kill us off, but to make it more hospitable and not susceptible, but more hospitable for their dwelling here. I mean, I don't know what else is it just because Satan wants to just kill everything? Oh, there's physiological reasons. There's reasons behind all of this. And we're not, obviously, we don't know all the reasons yet or all the things behind them, but it's not good. It's terrible. So now they've got this injectable nanorobot, or the aerosolized dust that can literally bore into your lung tissue and accomplish different pathological missions. So I'm saying the Lord's the only one that can really protect you. I mean, granted, yes, there's things that you can do, but these are things that you can also think to pray about. Because if you don't know about any of this, how could you even pray against it? And this is a big reason for this show.
Increasingly prevalent. So when we hear about people that are targeted targeted individuals? They are. So everybody go to stopthecrime.net. We have a mind control link. You need to understand that the stalking, the targeting of people individually with beamed weapons is real. It is happening. Once we understand what we're dealing with, then we're not so easily deceived. This talk right now is not to promote fear. It's to promote information so that you can...
Okay. Now, she talked about targeted individuals. Now, I've had many listeners contact me over the years, beg me to do, and I have incorporated that into some studies that I've done. One of the things that she's got up there is called the U.S. government's secret crime of organized stalking and electronic torture against American citizens. Now, this is not something that they're just all these fruitcakes running around saying they're hearing voices in their heads. Okay, I've had a lot of listeners contact me about this. A lot of people that aren't listeners that just found out about me. And these people are mega desperate. Okay, I'm just going to read you this, and so you can have a little more information on it. Learn about the mind control and torturous electronic targeting of individuals. This is body and brain rape. Our reality is not what we think. We've been manipulated by fear, massive media propaganda, and a subverted educational system by an agenda that has been hiding in plain sight. Keep in mind that America is no longer under constitutional rule of law. America is USA Inc., controlled by international bankers and mega corporations that are posing as a legitimate government and are not. And yeah, we could go into all the things about that, but we don't have time to do that today. So one must ask, why are the targeted victims asking the president to help them? Meaning they're appealing to like Obama or somebody, please help me, because they're so desperate. As you will read below in the link, the president is a puppet controlled by the international banking cartel and is committing these crimes as dictated by bankers and military-industrial complex. Mission accomplished. Now Earth Inc. is slavery and genocide programs with no morals, no ethics, and no mercy. See, this is the brave new world we're going into. And it is this bad, and it's even worse because we don't even know all of the actual agendas yet. It's going into the book of Revelation, essentially, is what we're dealing with here. To validate what has been said, please read The Silent Weapons, Quiet Wars, which is the international bankers' policy for slavery and genocide. War has been declared by the bankers against all global citizens. The bankers tell us whenever you have a few wealthy groups in a position of great power who are able to manipulate global economies without consent of a people, a state of war has been declared by the groups with the power against the people. A declaration of war using silent weapon system has been implemented en masse against us. And there's a link here you can click on. It's a letter published to Obama about this. It is important to realize that we must learn all the facts about what is happening to many fellow countrymen and women, and rather than labeling them crazy, understand that these programs are stalking, electronic torture, mind control, surveillance, etc. are real, and these programs are in full operation. Read The Matrix Deciphered by Robert Duncan. Now, I'm not endorsing any of this. Probably we're going to get into some of this is going to end up getting into New Age stuff potentially. So please glean, anyway. And investigate for yourself the technologies and military operations now under the silent war system. Go to stopthecrime.net to the mind control link to learn more and read The Silent Weapons, Quiet Wars and take a look at the NASA war plan. So these are things that she's repeated in there. I'm reiterating, kind of trying to coalesce everything here. But these people are hearing voices. They're in all kind of pain from these. They're being targeted. And why is all this? Well, they've done almost every single time, they've done something to really make the government mad. They've been vocal about a particular issue, whatever, and they have been targeted by the government. The vast majority of the time that I've seen, most of them aren't saved. Now, I think God can protect from these things, and a lot of these people are unsaved, and it's kind of like the people that get abducted. You can tell them, you got to turn to the Lord Jesus Christ, and they don't want to hear that. They would rather do anything on the planet than get saved and turn to God for maybe protection regarding this. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't saved people out there that haven't been targeted, that God, for one reason or another, maybe hasn't intervened in their particular case. Why that is, I don't know. That's between them and God. Maybe it's a besetting sin. Maybe it's something, whatever. Maybe it's a thorn in the side like Paul had, where it wasn't even anything on his. It was just so that he wouldn't get proud. I don't know. I don't want to judge them. Okay? I don't want to judge them. I can't know everything about these given situations. But I do believe the Lord has the ability, obviously, to protect from these things. But I think the vast majority of these people are unsaved, according to the interviews I've seen. And these people are being tortured basically night and day. And what this isn't just something, yeah, Satan loves this kind of stuff. Sure he does. But this is a rollout to what they want to implement on a worldwide scale. This is a rollout. This is beta testing going on. Like when you come out with a program and it's going to be something you want to try to implement, and you beta test it, and there's only a small percentage of the people that actually download the program, and they're testing it, and they work out the bugs and stuff like that. That's why they're doing this. Now, you look at like Maitreya, who says that when he makes his day of declaration, that all men will hear his voice subliminally in their own language, and basically mass acceptance and a feeling of euphoria, because they can give you frequencies that make you feel like garbage and cause pain. They can also induce frequencies that give you a sense of euphoria, and obviously in that state you're going to be more susceptible to believe whatever's being told you. Well, this is what they're getting ready to roll out on a global scale when the Antichrist is revealed. When the good old ascended masters. Here we got right now, what's going on in Egypt. We've been seeing what's going on in Syria, the Middle East. I mean, this is just a powder keg. World War III is going to happen. It's been planned for over 100 years. It's going to happen. It's going to be what causes the Antichrist and the false prophet to make their big debut. They're going to come out of the ashes of World War III, and probably untold upheaval on the planet worldwide. Plagues, pestilences, earthquakes, false flag nukes. Who knows what they're going to implement in America. Martial law everywhere. Horrific stuff. And you're going to have, on the heels of all of that, the Antichrist and the false prophet saying, hey, listen, we can actually bring, particularly the Antichrist, we can bring peace to this area. We can actually bring peace between the Jews and the Muslims, and they're going to come as men of peace, and they're going to supposedly have answers to all the major world problems, and they're going to use a lot of this technology that we're talking about, and particularly if he can come and use signs, lying wonders, and miracles, which is the chief way whereby which they will deceive the whole planet. This is going to be one of the main ways they do it, through psychotronic warfare. Hearing voices in your own heads. Through Project Bluebeam, seeing these gigantic projections of whatever Messiah you think you're looking for in the sky. That's totally been proven, okay? Gigantic UFOs over cities. How many times have you seen that from a Hollywood thing? We're here to help you. And we're here to help you, and we're here to intimidate you. Oh, you think you can do anything against this type of technology? Even if it is a holographic projection, whatever it is. They're going to have all this garbage going down at the same time, and people are going to be so in shock and in awe, and they're going to be so wore down, and they're going to be so just make the pain go away, make it all stop, that they're going to be more than willing to accept this. And this is how we're going to be going into literally the 7-year tribulation period. So I just wanted to throw that in there. We'll go ahead and we're going to go back to now the interview here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue here.
Live outside of the matrix, outside of the conspiracy that we've all been placed into, and understand our reality, so that then as this continues to spiral into the depths where we're heading, there won't be as many, it won't be as dangerous for all of us if we can prepare ourselves emotionally. Because on page 93 of the NASA War Plan.
Okay, but again, that's why I'm here for this interview. I want to just point you to this and say, yeah, listen to this, and that's it. Because, let's face it, if you're a Christian or even if you're unsaved, you listen to this, what hope is there? I mean, if they've already got this thing well going down the road, this train's been on the track, it's gaining momentum, and it's only going to... And if you don't approach this from a biblical perspective, you will lose hope. And if you're unsaved, what are you going to do? Rage against the machine? I mean, what are you going to do against this thing? You know, you need to really pursue this from a prayerful, putting on the full armor of God, preparing however so much the Lord would lead you, praying for discernment, praying for divine providence, praying that God would connect the true remnant body of Christ together, praying, as Jesus said in Matthew 24, that you be accounted worthy to escape all the things that are coming upon this earth and to stand before the Son of Man. See, this is the problem I have with these types of this isn't a ministry, but this type of information. Unbelievable information. Really nothing I've heard here I would disagree with at all. But not approaching it from any kind of real Christian standpoint. Approaching it just from here's the information, it's horrific, we need to resist this. But what about, how do we approach this as a Christian? You know, do we take Jesus Christ out of the equation? Which would be very easy to get your eyes off Jesus Christ and onto, you know, this situation and freak out and be like, well, there's no hope. Why bother? I'll just throw up my hands like the rest of the world and do nothing. You know, when we actually have more power to change things through prayer, fasting, and a lot of other ways than an unsaved person would ever have access to. And again, even worst case scenario, absent from the body, if you die, is to be present with the Lord. So, you know, like I was thinking the other day, if we would have gotten mob beat at that FemCare with those people that were going against that guy from FemCare, I'm like, this is a good place to die. I really thought that. I mean, I'm not saying that because I think I'm so tough. I'm just saying this is a really good place to die. If I had to, you know, I mean, yeah, let's go out like a martyr, man. I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, it was really a good place to do that. Anyway, so let's go back to the old interview here.
They talk about serious psy-war. They talk about exploiting the CNN syndrome, massive exploitation of the media. CNN, if you watch the YouTube, psy-war was set up by the CIA. On page 93 of the NASA war plan, it says, capture, torture Americans in living color on prime time. Terror attacks within the continental United States using binary biologicals, take down critical infrastructure, use of an EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse, radio frequencies and radiation frequencies against our brains, etc.
So some really fun stuff. Now remember, she said binary biologicals. It's so easy to listen to this interview and just like she's rapid fire succession here. Binary biologicals, what would that be? Well, I've brought this up before. Binary biological. Okay, let's say they come out this flu season and they say, oh, we've got the coronavirus, we've got this new whiz-bang vaccine for you, and it's going to really fix you up good. You better get down here or you're going to die. So you go there and you get your DNA tainted, microchip laced, aluminum, formaldehyde, witch's brew toxic vaccine injected into your bloodstream, defiling you and killing you if it doesn't kill you outright. And then over the next day, so they let people start getting their things, and then maybe they wait 1 or 2 weeks and they start spraying a wonderful, specially prepared chemtrail brew just for you that have gotten the vaccines. Binary. Bi means two. Okay? And then you have the nice chemtrails flowing down on you and you're inhaling those in while you've got this nice toxic vaccine working in your system. Okay? Then you got all the other toxins built up from all the other years. A binary agent will combine, is specifically made to combine with what's in the vaccines, whatever thing there, and it's like a lock and key, and that's what will actually end up killing you. You got to have both in place. Well, why don't they just do it with the vaccines? Well, it wouldn't look that great if you like went to Walgreens and you walk out and you're dropping dead as you're walking out the door, and they've got like body bags waiting for you. I don't think a lot of people would be like lining up to get the old vaccines then. It'd be a little too obvious. But this way, there's going to be many, many, many less people putting two and two together, and they'll have all the media spinning everything and totally taking away any kind of correlation between the people that got vaccinated and the chemtrails, because they don't acknowledge the chemtrails anyway. You see where I'm going with this? That's an example of a binary agent. They could do it with water. They could start introducing something in mass into the local water supply and all the people that are vaccinated. They could do tertiary agents where it's water, air, and vaccines. That would even make it more harder to pin down. So that's the key. There was that Batman thing, one of those shows where they showed this exact example where they were dumping something in the water supply, I think, and then it was a certain hair care product that if you use that and like some type of combination of that, you would die. And then all the newscasters were coming. Nobody was wearing makeup or anything because they were afraid they were going to whatever. That's an example of like a binary or a tertiary agent. And Hollywood's telling you this ahead of time so you're forewarned. From a Luciferian Kabbalistic standpoint, that's why they're doing it.
This is a silent weapons attack upon all of us. It has been happening for a very long time.
Let me ask you a question. You mentioned stalking, and I know Eleanor White's been a guest on the program talking about the organized stalking. Is this part of the harassment that has gone on with the people as a test project or learning how to stalk people?
Absolutely, and testing is over. They can now implement this, and they are. Another extremely important
Okay, to clarify a point, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pause this, so for some reason I have this huge lag here. Okay, the stalkings, what I just talked about. This is the psychotronic warfare type stalking where they're using targeted individuals, they're beaming voices into their heads, they're using all these frequencies on them to make their lives miserable, put them in all kind of pain, make them feel like they're going nuts. And these, okay, so she's saying that beta testing of the stalking, that's over. Now they're getting ready to implement this on a mass scale. So this is what she's talking about. She's not talking about your local pedophile stalking a little kid or some pervert rapist guy stalking some woman. This is the government stalking you. And there's all these targeted individuals they've been beta testing for many years, but the testing process and that time transition is essentially over. They've got the information they need.
Document that I've got to jump into because I'm looking at the time right now, Joyce. We found on the whitehouse.gov website a very, very disturbing document. You can get to that by going to Stop the Crime. At the very top, you will see new documents found, mind control. This is realizing the full potential. This is the government document, the name, the title. Realizing the full potential of government-held spectrum to spur economic growth. Now, the spurring of the economic growth is for the global banks. This is not for us. And this is the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology, July 20th of 2012. When you look to see who the members of the spectrum experts are, you find that Google, many of the typical universities that are involved in this massive takedown, UC Berkeley, Harvard. Again, Harvard was mentioned in the beginnings of the silent weapons document. We have the FCC involved here. We have the telecommunications, etc. People need to go and take a look at this unimaginable document. There's a map. It's only a 13-page document, and there's a map in this document. And they talk about using the existing TV white space, which is already in operation as the starting point. It's important for everyone to understand you've got to turn off your TVs or at least understand what they're doing to you.
Okay, explain white space. Explain white space.
Yeah, it is mind control. It's subliminal messaging, and it's conditioning of the way we think. And it's a digital format of the silent weapons program, and it's going to be launched. It looks like, according to this document, about September. And it's interesting, September of 2013, because they say that the NSA facility in
This is from this White House document that they just got. And they're saying that they're going to be using the white space on the whatever on the TV in order to implement this around September. That's next month. Okay, what really seems to me is I'm seeing news on a week-to-week basis. I had to go to every 2 weeks because I can hardly even do every 2 weeks now as far as my teachings go, because I'm just being so bombarded with news and inquiries and emails and all this stuff. It's overwhelming. Well, I really felt like, especially when I heard that, as aggressive, as insane as things are getting from a day-to-day basis on the news, really, I'm seeing a lot of stuff about September and October coming up. Now, again, I'm not date setting. I think that the prayers of saints have averted many of the things I have reported on in the past. And I'm not saying it was just, me reporting on it. It was other people as well and other Christians praying about it. But you never know. I mean, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. So we're really only going to know this when we get to heaven, how many times God averted things, how many times God protected us, how much mercy He's shown on us, those types of things. But I wanted to get it out there not only to pray about it, but I'm really seeing a lot of things, September and October, which is coming up here. Typically, they don't like to implement things right in the dead of winter because they might have snow to contend with and logistical problems that wouldn't exist during fall, spring, or summer. Okay, so I'm not saying nothing bad could happen during winter because that's not the case at all. I'm just saying, and it would also depend on where you are geographically, because certain places don't get any snow. Obviously, Florida, it's not going to be an issue. But I'm saying if they're going to implement this on a global scale, winter's usually not the best time to do it. So this whole thing about this white space thing, I never even knew anything about this. Anyway, I'm going to let this go further.
Utah will be up and running in September of 2013. Now, the map in this document will show you a massive amount of frequencies around the United States on all of our coastal states, along the West Coast, the Gulf Coast states, and along the entire eastern seaboard. You're going to see massive amounts of frequencies. This is a frequency fence that they're putting around us. They've already done that in large part by all of the cell phone towers that are lining all of our major roads in all of our cities. This is causing brain disruptions. This is causing people to have strokes. Understand, this is part of the United Nations Agenda 21 program, which they've recently renamed to Future Earth. Understand, they do not want mobility. They want us confined. They want us isolated. People will not feel well when they're traveling or driving. I have a YouTube, Joyce, that I'll be putting up on our site in just a few days. We were traveling from California, from Los Angeles up to San Francisco, and we did a half-hour clip on passing just hundreds of cell phone towers, and with our EMF analyzer in our vehicle, you could hear it. And these cell phone towers are disguised. They're in trees. You'll see the clip. They're palm trees. They're in church steeples. They even have flag poles. They're very thick flag poles with flags on them. Understand, these are being stealthily sited and positioned as a takedown mechanism. On page, I believe it's 54 of the Between Two Ages that Brzezinski wrote, he talked about frequencies being used like this that would actually take out massive areas of populations. Understand, the cell phone towers are weaponized. Go to smartmetersmurder.com and read Barry Trower, B-A-R-R-I-E, Trower, T-R-O-W-E-R. He is one scientist in the UK, and along with thousands of other scientific documents, they have documented that these cell phone towers are weaponized. Again, they reduce the vitality of people wherever these are deployed, and you will hear him discuss this. The cell phone towers are all part of the Silent Weapons program. Also, I urge everybody to read The Matrix Deciphered, written by Robert Duncan, D-U-N-C-A-N. That's referred to on our site as well. He wrote this book about 2 years ago. He was interviewed by Jesse Ventura during the Mind Control program as the last interviewee. His massive apology to the world for any contribution that he made towards this takedown program. He was compartmentalized and did not understand how they were stealing his intellectual inventions and how they were going to be used by controlling specific thoughts, emotions, directing physical actions into unsuspecting beings. The map is the end. It shows you. It is the end of free will as we have known it. And this is on the White House website. We've added to the map. You'll see it on our website. And you need to understand what this is about. We've had several scientists and doctors weigh in on it already at this point. And what we're understanding is that part of this program is going to be to strip the negative ions out of the oxygen. Now, negative ions are brain food.
Okay, so she'll talk about the negative ions, stripping that out of oxygen. Negative ions are what give you a sense of well-being when you get near a waterfall or near the coast. Like when there's waves crashing, that the movement of water like that, or water hitting rocks or water falling, produces negative ions. That's what you're feeling. That's why a lot of people are attracted to coastal areas or bodies of water, particularly if there's moving water, streams, these types of things, waterfalls, and they want to strip that out too. They want to take away every single source of well-being that we could possibly garner in any way, shape, or form. I'm looking at this map here, the targeting of the United States military-industrial complex, Silent Systems Deployment 2013, this is United States, and it says, this is from the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technologies, PCAST, July 20th, 2012, and it shows this map where, oh, I get it. It's specifically targeting the coastal areas of America, on California all the way up to Washington, and from Maine all the way down to Florida, all the way over to the bottom of Texas. Okay, what are these areas? These are the coastal areas where there's more water, where people have sometimes a greater sense of well-being because they're near a large body of water, if they're around moving water, and these types of things. This has to do, I believe, with the negative ions she's talking about. This is so off the hook. I just, unbelievable. It's stopthecrime.net/mind.html. All the links are up there, though, and you can click on these. There's a lot to search here. There's no way I can put this all really in my PDF, but I give you all the links on how to get there. Okay, so that's the important part if you want to explore this further here. So I'll go ahead and we'll go back and let her talk more about these negative ions.
Give us advantages with thinking. This is why so many people prefer to live in coastal areas, which is why so much of our population is on the coast. People feel better, they think better, generally they're healthy. Just as the globalists stripped the vitamins, vitamins out of our food supply, and then we had Big Pharma come in with vitamins to replace the vital minerals that were stripped with toxins.
Huge point she just brought up there that I've said many, many times that most people don't really have a clue about overall. Now, my listeners would, but most people don't. What did she just say there? They stripped the vitamins and the minerals out of the food supply. When did that start happening? Well, you can go back all the way to when they started refining sugar. Literally, back in the 1800s, when they started taking, like, let's say sugarcane or whatever, and stripping all of the natural things that occur with the sugarcane out of there, processing it, bleaching it, and turning it essentially into a chemical or a drug. They did the same thing with bleached flour. They removed all of the essential B vitamins, the E complexes, the things like that would naturally occur in, let's say, if you're going to make your own bread, if you're going to make it yourself and you're going to actually use real wheat berries, organic wheat berries, they take all that stuff out of there that is essential for health and essential for actually things like that, and they just leave you with the carbohydrates. It's almost like a chemical. And then what they do is then they spray back or fortify that totally decimated, I don't even know if you could call it food, with fortified minerals like Wonder Bread, for instance, rots your bodies in 13 different ways. Remember those old commercials? Anyway, it says Bill's Bodies. And anyway, they spray back 13 synthetic, chemical, fortified vitamins or minerals or whatever that are literally manufactured by the pharmaceutical industry. And like in, for instance, B6, I believe, they would manufacture that out of coal tar. And then you would buy a 50-gallon drum of this stuff from Hoffman LaRoche and spray it back into your bread. Or the normal thing to do is to just make vitamins that way. Get your Flintstones chewables with your aspartame and all your other garbage that's in there. Probably rots bodies 100 different ways. You can get your synthetic vitamins, you can get your aspartame and who knows whatever else on all your food colorings, all in one convenient tablet. Little death tablet from the pit of hell, and feed it to your children. Now, I'm not condemning you if you've done that. I'm just saying that's essentially what we're dealing with here. All of this is a coordinated effort to annihilate us, body, soul, and spirit, in every way, shape, and form, so that when the Antichrist makes his big debut, we'll all be good little slaves that won't want to resist him at all. And we'll both, we'll be like gelded in every way, shape, and form, where we can't do anything. We're ineffective. And this is what they want. This is exactly the type of environment they want. So it's all part of that plan. Now, again, this is why I only recommend the food state, non-synthetic type vitamins. And those are the only lines I carry. Because probably innate response formulas is probably the best I know of. There's some other vitamin companies that are catching on to this concept, and they're trying to make what they call food state type vitamins. Another one I saw at a health food store recently was Garden of Life. They seem like they're pretty good as well. They have a concept of this synthetic versus natural, because you can go to the vitamin store, a natural vitamin, and it's all synthetic. That's the norm. You go to Walmart, you go to drug stores, you go to most health food stores. Most of what you're going to get is synthetic vitamins. They're not what occurs in nature. When you get vitamin C from a vitamin C plant, it's a vitamin C complex. A vitamin C plant, an orange, okay? It's the C complex, okay? They'll say vitamin C is ascorbic acid. We'll make it in 50-gallon drums, and we'll sell it to you and call it ascorbic acid and basically say, this is vitamin C. No, it's not. Number one, the ascorbic acid that would occur in an orange is it's a whole other different chemistry profile. And you get into the whole right-hand, left-hand thing, and I can't really explain that in this study, but it's not the same. Even the ascorbic acid is totally different than the ascorbic acid you would get in a vitamin C complex from an orange. Okay, it's the way God put it here. Okay, in other words, if God made it a certain way, why are we trying to go in there and mess around with it? All we're going to do is mess it up. But that's all by design. So they'll say, okay, and that's only part. It would be like if you had a Cadillac and you took the steering wheel off the Cadillac and handed it to somebody and said, hey, this is an amazing Cadillac. It drives great. And you take the steering wheel and you're looking at it and you're like, well, no, this is the steering wheel off a Cadillac. And the guy says, no, it's a Cadillac. Trust me, it's a Cadillac. But you're like, no, it's not, it's just the steering wheel. This is what happens when you take something like just ascorbic acid and call it vitamin C. It's not. It's just part of that. And even the part that it is still totally warped and tainted. It's not like the natural. Vitamin C has things like tyranase, organic copper, things called P factors, J factors, things in there that are intrinsic to the vitamin C complex that you have to get from a whole food. Okay? But the vitamins that are commonly available, they're totally garbage. And that's all been by design too. All on purpose, done for decades. That's the whole fortification process that they've done with cereals, with breads, with you name it. They just fortified vitamins and stuff. And a real easy way to tell is just looking at something, and you look at something like a vitamin product, and it's like, okay, I've got 1,000 milligrams of B1, 1,000 milligrams of B2, whatever. Okay, all these nice, neat numbers. Number one, if it was truly a food state or a whole food vitamin, that would be all over the label. Okay, they would make sure you know that, because they're typically more expensive, because it's harder to manufacture products like that. It's quality. Whereas if you buy 50-gallon drums of B1, B2, or whatever from pharmaceutical companies, those are real easy to make cheap vitamins, and then they can list it in there. And we're conditioned in America in particular that more is better. And it's like a lot of times my vitamins that I would recommend to somebody, like innate response formulas or these other ones, the other one I just mentioned, it would be like, well, the RDA value or the numerical values of milligrams isn't as high. Well, that's true, because they're only analyzing one constituent. When you deal with a complex, like a C complex, there's going to be a lot less ascorbic acid in that product, and that's how they rate it. They're not rating it on a right scale. They're rating it on one criteria, and that's one they can just make. Okay, we'll just blast it with ascorbic acid and say, "Oh, look how high it is," and it's synthetic. And see, this is how they manufacture drugs as well. Okay, these pharmaceutical vitamins. In particular, are really not a whole lot different than drugs. They're both manufactured in laboratories. They're both totally unnatural. For instance, aspirin, and I've said this before, the active component that they've isolated from white willow bark, which is where aspirin was first derived, was acetylsalicylic acid. So the pharmaceutical companies came along and said, yeah, that's great, but we know white willow bark works as an analgesic or as a pain reliever, and it really has no side effects, but we can't patent it. We can't make tons of money off that because it naturally occurs in nature. So what we'll do, because we're greedy and we're of Satan, we're going to take what we think is the main constituent, we're going to turn it into something synthetic called acetylsalicylic acid, and we're going to make that and sell it as aspirin. That way we can put a patent on it and make way more money. That's the whole thing with drugs. And it's very, very similar with synthetic nutrients as well. Now, I've done studies on this. You can key in maybe synthetic in the keyword search box at contendingfortruth.com, or vitamins, health. Probably find those studies I've done in times past. I probably have a lot of overlapping studies I've done on this. It's a really big deal. But she mentioned that, and I thought that was really important too, because that's a whole other aspect to this thing, how they're trying to kill us and control us.
With petrochemicals in the vitamins, we now are going to have the negative ions stripped from the oxygen molecule. Take a look at this, because this is also creating a fence. This is going to increase massive amounts of depression. It's going to create the easy ability for mind control. This is what they're after. They're after our minds. They're after everything. When you look at the Wildlands Project on StopTheCrime.net, they're taking it all. Our property, everything. They want it all. And it's important to understand that all of this is documented. The Wildlands map is mandated under the United Nations. It's a biodiversity treaty. That's why you're hearing farmers and ranchers' properties being fined and penalized by the U.S. Forestry and the Fish and Wildlife. Those are all agencies of this monstrous corporation that is set to collapse everything within not only the United States but globally. Understand that the Wildlands Project is a project where all life, human and non-human, has equal value, and resource consumption above what is needed to supply vital human needs is immoral. Human population must be reduced. Vital civilization, Western civilization must radically change its present economical and technological and ideological structures. This is
we'll be back. We've got a 3-minute break. We'll be back with final segment, Deborah Tavares. Thanks for joining us. Caring about your world is all about the truth. 54 minutes after the hour. Tomorrow is Friday, and we're going to see what happens on Friday. Josh will be here tomorrow. Catherine, just to let you all know, her house got flooded. She is okay. She is doing well from 12 to 3 p.m. today. 12 to 3 on Liberty Roundtable. Go to libertyroundtable.com and check out the website there. And I appreciate Sam Bushman very much. Let's...
Now, I provide you the link to the teaching, to this audio, if you want to hear it again, because this is one of those ones where, I mean, this is my third time, and rarely do I ever listen to anything 3 times. I mean, granted, the first time was choppy, but this information is that important that I felt compelled to go through this. So I provide you the link on the PDF as well, so you can forward that to friends or do what you'd like to do with that. So anyway, I wanted just to kind of throw that in there. This interview, it looks like we only have about 4 more minutes, and then we're going to go to the segue to the next interview.
You wanted to mention one other document that people need to be aware of. I know they've probably heard of it, but they need to go to your website and see it. And what is that?
It is the report from Iron Mountain, and go to stopthecrime.net. I urge everybody to download all of these documents under the source document.
Okay, I just did the report on Iron Mountain, expose report. I think it was the last teaching. So how ironic is that I just did that? And that was another thing I'd had a lot of people request me to do for a long time. So again, it seems to all be tying together very nicely.
Keep them as part of your library. Who knows how long we'll be able to download and use the net. But I want to just read one quote very quickly. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. This is William Casey, the CIA director, in 1981.
And where was that quoted?
Well, you can find it on my website, and there's some background information on where that came from. So it's very important to understand we've been warned by many people, as well as the former FBI director. In 1956, he said the individual is handicapped by coming face-to-face with a conspiracy so monstrous he cannot believe it exists. The American mind simply has not come to the realization of the evil which has been introduced into our midst. It rejects even the assumption that human creatures could espouse a philosophy which must ultimately destroy all that is good and decent. And again, that's the former FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover in 1956. So he was fully aware of the Iron Mountain report that came out, fully aware of the silent weapons. That was also during that period of time. All of the documents that tell us what they're doing have been telegraphed to us many years ago. We just need to read them. Understand what the Iron Mountain report will tell you. It will tell you from the 1960s how they were going to orchestrate healthcare, which they're doing now, how they're handling and managing education, which they are doing now. We literally are going to have to start homeschooling our children. The government educational detention camps are strictly to propagandize, to rewrite our corporate history, teach all of our children that global warming exists, and rewrite everything. They're not going to be teaching cursive handwriting in the Common Core curriculum, and that will disenable us to read our history because, of course, documents were all done in cursive back in those days, so they'll have the opportunity to write everything. A very important comment about the Common Core curriculum. It's important to understand that it's going to be introducing Wi-Fi as a requirement in all schools. The children are going to be isolated behind a computer screen, and the Wi-Fi is going to damage the children. They will not be, this is all part of the silent weapons program to depopulate us because there will be massive increases of infertility, which is already occurring. But again, all part of the silent weapons document. What they do say, too, in the NASA war document is eliminating colleges and transitioning us to everything computer.
Amazing. So much information in 1 hour, listeners. You'll have to go back and listen to this program again. Please send it out to those that you know. Please get it out there. It needs to be heard. We have to take action. And we're going to be doing a program on solutions in action with Deborah Tavares also. Thank you, Deborah. We salute you at the Power Hour for sure.
Thank you so much, Joyce.
You have a blessed day. Oh, my gosh. I cannot imagine all that was just put through the airwaves. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see what tomorrow holds.
Unreal. My hat's off to her. That was really, really good. I mean, she covered more territory there than I've probably ever covered in that short a period of time. Obviously, she wasn't able to go into great detail, but actually, she did go into great detail on a lot of it. But all the documents are available off her websites. If you go to the main website, the stopthecrime.net site, let me see if I can get back here. Yeah, I'm at the stopthecrime.net /mind.html, and we've got NASA Atrocities Part 2 and 3. All of this stuff up here, that map that we just went over, how they're trying to create this they're going to be targeting these coastal areas from Washington to California, from Texas all the way up into Maine, to, I guess, strip these negative ions out of the air and create mass. And I guess maybe it's to get people away from any kind of sense of well-being that being around water, the negative ions you would get from coastal areas would provide you. I mean, this is how evil they are. They want to create a bunch of zombified, dumbed down, evil, depressed, debauched, you name it, that's what they want to do. We're created in God's image, and the devil is trying to defile us at every single level. And they're so they're so aggressive about doing this. It's almost incomprehensible. I can't even believe the information that we've just covered. She says, do you know what the X factor to their pulsed ELF, extra low frequency mind control, happens to be? Something called negative oxygen ions. Let me try to sum up in a 6th grade language. The oxygen we breathe is composed of 2 oxygen molecules bound together. If the oxygen molecule is stripped of electrons, it becomes positively charged. Conversely, if there are extra electrons attached to oxygen, it becomes negatively charged. Now, you ever notice how, like, when a lightning storm, or if there's a lot of lightning, or right before a storm moves in, that feeling, I like it. That's massive amounts of negative electrons that you're experiencing there. A lot of times, like you'll see, like with animals, they'll kind of get a little bit flighty, and when you have a massive lightning strike, it's producing massive amounts of negative, and this is God's way of replenishing them through things like lightning and moving water and probably various other ways. Well, they're trying to take that out of the environment. So if there is extra electrons attached to oxygen, it becomes negatively charged. Study after study after study on this, largely by DARPA, the Stanford Research Institute, and CIA MKUltra projects during the 60s and 70s showed that humans breathing negative oxygen ions have markedly better cognitive reasoning skills and are much less likely to be mind-controlled on a massive scale. And more importantly, are much more physically healthy. Negatively charged ions are vitally important for healthy humans. Okay, so you must now understand that the primary source of negative oxygen ion generation is the seashore. The waves of the salty surf crashing onto the coastline rocks and sand 24/7 generate massive negative ions. And this is just confirming what I already said, but now they're saying it in print. Which in turn supplies the entire nation with what best can be described as good vibrations. And then she said, sorry, Beach Boys. Anyway, prevailing winds then circulate the negatively charged oxygen ions throughout the nation. This is amazing. What strikes me immediately is the fact that these digital wave signals, as shown on the map, now this is the map from the White House, okay, whitehouse.gov, are specifically only heavily concentrated along America's coastlines and nowhere else. It appears to me that if the powers that be are seeking to electromagnetically strip electrons from the air, I can see no other reason for this, quite frankly, other than, obviously what it will cause. The net result will be to me to simply result in much more chemically depressed national population and voila, a much more easily mind-controlled nation. And that's from that Dr. Truott guy. Anyway, I have to agree. I have to totally agree. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this portion of this onto the thing. And now the map you're going to see is a reduced version, but if you click on the map, you're going to be able to see the expanded map and what it actually, what we're actually dealing with here. I mean, this is mind-blowing, this information. Absolutely mind-blowing. So anyway, I'm going to end part 2 here, and we're going to go more into another talk that she did on NASA, and we're going to explore what she has to say about that. So God bless you, and we'll see you in part 3.